Welcome back to another episode of the Bamboo SZN Podcast, the podcast where you'll hear stories of transformation, change, resilience, ups, downs, the goods, the bads, the ugly. And this podcast is sponsored by Optimal Human Superfood Green Juice, an amazing taste. It almost tastes like sweet tea, but since using it for about a month and a half now, I've noticed my fatigue level is gone, more energy, more focus. Use the link in my description to get your free shaker bottle and 5 free packs of the amazing Optimal Human Green Juice. Now, it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and my guest today has a great story. He is a fitness coach, been doing it for many years, all the way from Baltimore, Maryland. I bring you my man, Rob Brown.
Thanks, my man, Dorian. Thanks for having me, man, for sure. You know, I've been a fan of you with your work and your podcast, so I appreciate you having me on for sure.
No, man, I definitely needed to have you on. We've discussed it in the past. It's obviously the right timing whenever it works for us both. And I do appreciate you coming on, and we've talked a little bit in between. We work at the same gym. I've gotten little bits and pieces of your story, and I love how you do watch my content. And I know because you come up to me almost every other morning and let me know, hey, man, I saw that piece you said, and you shared some things with me, similar things you've been through when I've shared my struggles with alcohol and drugs, and you kind of chimed in and told me, hey, man, back in the day, you know, this, and this. And I was like, damn, I need to hear more.
Right.
And how long have you been in the fitness industry?
Since 2002, right? So I was a fiber optic engineer. I worked all over the world, and then I came back to the United States, and I was working all over the country. But then 9/11 happened, and once that happened, it changed everything across, like, the business landscape. So all the money that we had, like, they all pulled it back, and the country went to war. So the tech stuff kind of fell off. So at that point, I had made a bunch of money, and so I took a couple months off and just sat back and tried to figure out, you know, what I really wanted to do. I was probably like 29, almost 30, somewhere around there. And so I was like, okay, the next thing I do is going to be the thing I die doing, right? And so I was going back and forth, and what was funny, because my roommate was a heterosexual hairstylist, right? And he was trying to get me to do it because he was like, yeah, we all buff, you know what I mean? A black dude that's straight doing hair, we're going to make all this money. And I was like, dog, you ever seen me cut somebody's hair? You do not. It's like, it would be luck. Sometimes I would end up in the right spot, and sometimes I wouldn't, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, I done cut some woman's hair and smashed it all up. That just wasn't for me, but he was on me and on me. But anyway, I moved into fitness. And I started off at a Bally's in Wheaton, Maryland. Big, gigantic Bally's. You know, I started off, and I had an amazing teacher there, this guy named Khalid, who he would just roll in there and go, all right, come here. He would take like 3-4 small apparatus pieces and go, train me. Just right on the spot. Like, great teacher. And I got my start there. And I ended up in Vegas because after a couple years, the problem I was having was I moved from that Bally's to another gym, which was a more high-end gym. So Under Armour's from Baltimore. Their offices was across from us at this Merit on Ford Avenue where I work. So all the Under Armour executives was there, Mayor Martin O'Malley. It was sort of like a high-end, nice little spot, and I started killing it. But the problem was on the East Coast at that time, in the early 2000s, they took 40% of your haul, the gym did, right off the top, right? Like, personal training was, like, I mean, like, at the time I started kind of working out in the early 90s, personal training was the big dude at the gym, and everybody asked him questions until he was finally like, throw me some money under the table, and he would work with you a little bit. But by this time, it was growing, but it just wasn't huge. And so the LVAC on Rainbow was opening up. And my boy was living out here. The dude who tried to get me to be the hairstylist had moved out here. He was like, hey, man, they got this gym out there. It's 110,000 square feet. You pay $450 a month and keep the rest. So you got to think, the gym was taking 40%. The Uncle Sam was taking his 30. So I'm invoicing like $12,000 worth of personal training in a 2-week period. And I was walking away with $3,500 of that.
Ooh.
Yep. My boy was like, yo, you pay $450 out here and keep your money. I was like, in the wind. In the wind, right? I mean, he told me, and I said, wait a minute. So independent contracting. And so I packed up and rolled out. It took me probably about a year, really, to make that mental transition to do it, right? I kept swimming against the current. Like, nah, I'm going to make it here. And just wasn't really getting what I thought I could make. So I packed up and came to Vegas, man, with $100 in a suitcase, $100. Well, I had 200 when I left Baltimore, but I had to stop in Dallas, so I got a little twisted because I left everything I loved. My grandmother and my mother came to the airport, even though I said bye to them the night before. They came to the airport because it was like, oh, like nobody, like people in my family don't really leave. You know what I mean? We all kind of stay congregated in Maryland. Some of us had moved out, but for somebody to leave, they was like, somebody chasing you? Like you running from, like, nah, I just want something more, right? It was just no opportunity to do what I wanted to do. So I came out here and hit the LVAC, and it was dope because, like, I lowered my rate and was making more money because I was itemizing my stuff. I buy some Nikes, I can write that off. So that was my introduction into being an entrepreneur, like a fitness entrepreneur, where I was running my own business, claiming my own stuff on taxes, and building that way like a LLC. And that got me out here.
And that was, what year was that?
2006.
So you've been here almost 20 years now.
Yep.
And into the fitness, and then you started off as a what? Optical engineer?
I was a fiber optic engineer.
Fiber optic engineer. What's that?
So basically what fiber optics is they figured out how to attach information to light, high-speed data transfer. And you talking about, this was like in the 90s, right? Like the late 90s when I got into this. I was in Europe in 99. The internet, all of that stuff has started taking on. And so you have to think, right? Like stuff on the internet is massive amounts of data. And they figured out how to make it faster, how for stuff to travel faster. So you had these big giant rings, right? Like the Olympic rings. And so what happened was, let's say one side fell down or crashed, you could redivert traffic so that, you know, traffic didn't stop, stuff like that. And so I was doing that. So then we actually got fired from that job for one dude, got the whole company fired. So we went back home, and I was working for what was essentially Cox on the East Coast. Is called Comcast.
Yeah, I remember Comcast. We sat out here.
Yeah, so like cable would only go to your house, right? But then when they started, you could order movies and stuff. It had to be a return. So what my company did was we rebuilt your system and upgraded it. I had the easiest job in the world. After the dudes did all the grunt work, I came in with what amounted to a laptop, plugged in and balanced the signal, took pictures and rolled out.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You could make like $1,500 by lunch. It was the best money. It was the best money that I'd ever seen. I got 9 months of it, and then 9/11 happened. But here's the juicy story, man. Like, so before all of that, I had a major label record deal, right? And I was in a band I ain't gonna name.
Why not?
Just because.
Okay.
Just politics, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, it was a band. It was called Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Okay.
But I don't really want to talk about them that much because there's some drama that'll get opened up, right? And this is my story.
Yeah.
So I was doing that up until I was 27-ish, somewhere around there. And my thing was, I was as dominant an MC as there was at that time, right? My boy, so like I was rapping on like the black college circuit. And
Before we get too far, hold on. So make sure we're clear. You're born and raised in Baltimore until you moved to Vegas?
I was in Annapolis, was where I was from. And then I went to Baltimore as an adult. It's the same thing. It's like 20 miles.
Oh, okay.
Right?
But it's all Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
So you're from Maryland, and then you're in a band, you're the MC.
And then I stopped, and then I went into the fiber from there, right?
Okay.
Like I walked away from that around 27, 28. And I'm like, I ain't make no money. I ain't trying to be a broke-ass rapper for the rest of my life. I just walked away. I was still doing little side stuff, but I'm like, I'm getting a job. But the backstory was a part of the reason why I left was because I could not redefine myself in Maryland, right? Everybody saw me as this persona that I had built. And
What persona was that?
I mean, when you in a major label, we were some of the most popular people in the Mid-Atlantic region, right? That's how popular this band was. And then, so they were rock, and then we mixed rap with it. And at that time, that was like exploding, right? So like when I mixed with them, it was like gasoline, like fire, like a match thrown on gasoline, and it got even bigger, right? But the problem was the subculture that came along with that. And that's the reason why I was always rolling up on you like, yo, man, I know what that's like. Right? Because just think, when you in a band, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, like anything that you want, it's there for you, right? And I managed to negotiate that pretty well, but just like you, I had my times, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I was definitely out there. I didn't think I could die. I pushed it. I took things as far. I was.
At what age did you get into the band?
I probably started music when I was like around 22, 23. And it wasn't something that I set out to do, man. Like, I had raggedy cars in college, right? So I used to just make up songs in the car, right? Little buckets. And I didn't have a TV in high school. I never watched television, right? I was either reading or listening to music, just staring up at my wall, just letting my mind do what it was meant to do, and that's think infinitely. Like, I was weird like that. Like, sitting around thinking, just organic thought was more entertaining to me than TV. All I ever watched was SportsCenter. That was it. And so I was always like rapping into my microphone. Into my remote control, like turn a CD on and like perform it. And so like by doing this, and then having such an extensive vocabulary, being a writer and being in school, and that was like my strong point, was verbal communication. One thing led to another until somebody heard it, and next thing I know, I was on tour, right? But the story was, when I walked away from that, I brought so much social to it: drugs, alcohol, chicks, partying, hanging out. It was just like a persona that I had built. And then when I tried to sort of deconstruct it, it just didn't work. And that was another part of the reason why I came to Vegas, because I was like, if I stay here, I don't even know if I would really been around, right? Like, that's why when I saw the video, the post where you put up where you woke up out on the street, I ain't never quite go that far.
A lot of people haven't.
But I was, man, like when I saw that, I already had respect for you, right? But that right there, like, you saw my comment that I'm still getting likes from 2 months later, which is, that's some ill shit to even admit that happened to you, right? Like, when I saw that, I was like, this guy's on another level, because people wouldn't even say that. I woke up on the sidewalk. And I ain't wake up in the sidewalk, but I woke up in some questionable spots, right? You know what I mean? And I pushed it. You know what I mean? If it was out there to do, I was going to try it. And so when I came to Vegas, I made a conscious decision. Like, even my boy who was out here waiting for me, he thought the rapping at the party, getting high, hanging out guy was coming out here. No, I came out here like I was in the U.S. military. Like, nope. Like, here I am. I'm 30-something, and I haven't found really the thing that, I really did my best work at. And so I decided to come out here and do it in fitness. It's like I told my lady, I was like, I've never focused totally on being the very best I could be at anything until I came out here and did it as far as being a fit professional. But the funny thing about when you pack up and you go away, your demons come with you. You know what I mean? The shit I thought I left in Baltimore just came right out here. And it was like, you in Sin City. So like, my demons was like, you dummy, you moved us out here. You dummy, you thought this was gonna work? But I came out here, man, and just found like a different version of myself. You know what I mean? I just decided, I pushed all that stuff away, man, and just focused on trying to be the best person I could be. Now, of course, it's Vegas, so, I showed my ass, no doubt. But it's been a good 20 years out here, right? Because for the first time in my life, I think I really focused on the things that matter, right? And like trying to be the very best that I could be. And I've done well in fitness, and I was getting ready to walk away. Like, when I first met y'all, over at Impact, I was thinking, I was going to just probably roll off and I'm a licensed insurance adjuster. So for the last couple years, I've been getting certifications and flying down to Dallas, taking these 1 week, 2 week courses and stuff, because I figured I was going to go into that. Those guys make good money, and you can work all over the place. Like when Maui burnt down, that's the kind of place they'll send you, right? So you go out there for like 6 months and be out there making money, in a place like that. So I was getting ready to retire, and then a couple things happened that reignited me, like recently, that made me go, no, I still got some things that I want to do in this game. So if you look, my social's getting better, and just the whole way that I go about, acquiring my clients, and my socials now have more of a purpose as opposed to just, oh, look at this stuff, that I'm talking about. Like, it's all designed to let people know, hey, I'm an authority in this particular thing and I can help you with that. And so that has re-energized. Like, I won a scholarship from this thing called Fit Boss. You may have seen like Ruben Brooks online, amazing dude. And they had like 500 trainers that were applying for the scholarship, like 2 free. I was trying to figure out how I was going to, rearrange some things. I think the course like $8,000, right? And I was going to take it because just from the couple of conference calls I had with him, it breathed life into what I was doing. So I applied for the scholarship and won it. It was like me and one other girl got one. And so I'm about a month in that, and the stuff that they've taught me on, like how to market your business, how to scale up. I mean, if you think about it, it's 1 billion people online, right? So if you get 50 people at 800 a month online, that's 40K a month. And that's, what they have us developing, is that business that way. I'm going to still do it online because it's like I like being in the wild, wild west in the morning, man. Like,
same. I've thought about, I've tried a few times to go online. It's a lot of trainers do. They get, work less hours, train more people, make more money, this and that, which is great. It sounds good. But I personally love going in and being in there.
right.
Online's cool and all, but I don't think, in my opinion, unless you've already done it in person for a good amount of time, there's only so much you can coach somebody virtually, or not virtually, online.
Right.
And if we're to be so efficient, you might get a few people who will follow the plan and listen, but to me, man, it's just so powerful to actually be in there in person, see things in real time action, give real time solutions. I don't know. The connection
people.
mostly, yeah. That's the biggest thing too, is the connection. Like even today, when I was training clients, I had one that's going through a rough patch in life, and it's just those moments where we're not even really working out today. We are, but you need somebody to talk to about some things you're going through.
Right.
And I'm very nosy, so unless they tell me leave me alone, whatever, I'm gonna dig deep and see and give whatever information I can give to help you. What I had to learn with that is asking for permission, because I would catch myself giving unsolicited advice or unsolicited coaching, and they probably don't want to hear that. They probably just want to talk.
Right.
They don't need to hear you giving your advice that's not needed. They just want to get it off their chest.
Right.
But yeah, shit.
The connection part, like working with my clients personally, has definitely been the best part about it. But you said the right thing. After you do it for a little while longer, because I'm warming up to it. Before I was like, no way. But I'm warming up to it now because the upside financially is higher, right? You spend, like, I've humped around a gym for 12, 13 hours a day in, day out, 6 days a week. You make a lot of money, right? But you don't have time to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, at 53, so like I owned a gym right before I came to Impact. And, we sold and moved on from that because at 53, I want to be able to pack up and go. Like I think I got 5 years, man, and I'll be down in Belize done. And if I can make it shorter than that, I am, because I'm worried about this country, regardless of what side of the aisle you on. I just don't believe you can have this level of animus and hate, and it's being normalized on the daily. Like at one point you was like, wow, this is some foul shit. Now it seems normal, right? And I think it's gonna escalate to the point where you're not gonna be able to get away from it. You know what I mean? And that's the thing I don't like now is it's just kind of just threatening everything about society. So I'm kind of planning on, try to get myself together and go somewhere, man, where I can just exist. Because I find it harder and harder to exist in, I don't know if it's this country or just every country, man, but it's just so much negative bullshit, to the point where I just think it's just getting worse. I think social media has divided people. Like when social media first came out, I'm like, man, it's the best shit ever, because I like to connect with people and talk to people, right? So this is gonna be a place where I can share ideas, and you would put up a post that was filled with knowledge and you get people attacking you because they disagree, and they don't even attack you on the merits, right? Just sort of, they don't disagree with the scope, right? But, they don't even offer like anything to oppose it. They just hate the fact that you don't agree with them, right? And I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, yeah, I agree. It is bad. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of this, that, back and forth, and fighting opinions. What I've learned myself to do is just don't follow people. Don't follow people or things. It's people who I've known for years, people who I've been friends with. If they start sharing stuff that I don't feel is in line with me, of who I want to be and where I want to go, I'm not going to follow them. Right. I don't care if we're friends. I don't care if whatever. Is it personal? A little bit, because my personal well-being is at risk.
Right.
I want to follow coaches, philosophers, motivational speakers, doctors with knowledge, people who are inspiring. So that way because social media, you can't ignore it. You can if you're that disciplined, but it's hard to not scroll. So what I've made a conscious decision is making sure I'm following people and things that's uplifting, that's good. I'll get into little rabbit holes of dark humor, but I control my algorithm in a sense.
Right.
And I think a lot of people aren't realizing that, and they get caught in the rabbit hole of politics, religion, whatever it is that's going on, and it gets them so worked up. Like, oh my God, my friend is anti this. Oh my God, my other friend is this. I can't be friends with them. It's like, bro, then don't be friends. Just stop getting so stop getting so caught into things that aren't serving you. Like, are you where you want to be in life right now?
Right.
And if you're not, you worry about the wrong shit. You need to go follow Tony Robbins. You need to go follow Les Brown.
Napoleon Hill.
You need to go follow people that are going to uplift your spirits and put you in a different creative mind space. And people don't want to do that. They like drama. People love drama, which I've come to realize.
We live in a meme
I love
culture.
drama too, but
I don't.
I mean drama like TV shows.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like I not like well, if I'm not a part of it, like there's been times where I see some stuff pop off at the gym, and I'm like, okay, what's going on?
I mean,
like,
it's entertaining, yeah, for sure. But for me, I don't like negativity at all, man. Like it just gets on my nerves. Like you can't even say good morning to the average person nowadays.
You know what's crazy is, when I recently went to Guatemala, and then even a year ago went to Costa Rica. One thing I loved out there in that country, those countries, every single person you walk by will tell you "Buenos dias," "Buenos tardes." Oh, and I'd be like, I'm like, damn. So then I came back here and I was telling my client about that, and then I was telling her how sometimes I don't do it, and she looked at me and she's like, "Well, you're the problem." I'm like, "Damn, you're right." So I've made a conscious choice now, moving forward, when I cross paths with somebody, to say, greet them in some form or fashion.
Right.
And
I had to break you down. Like I was always like rolling up on you like, yo, what's up? And you was like, oh, okay. See, maybe that was when you first started having them thoughts.
No, yeah, because I'm very just locked in what I'm doing.
You know,
and focused.
I found it to be a coastal thing, right? Like
it could be that too.
East Coast, it's more, yo, what up? Blah, blah, blah. West Coast, it was like they'll look at you, and then when you look at them, look away. Like I would do that. It was cultural.
Well, I would continue to look at you.
Oh, that too.
You know what I mean? So like, if you catch me looking at you,
yo, man,
I'm not gonna look away. I'm just keep looking at you.
Yo, that is check this out. Don't take that shit to the East Coast, bro. That shit will get you in some drama, right? Because like that was the thing that was messing me up when I first got here. Because like on the East Coast, if you and some dude at the bus stop, right, and you turn and y'all make eye contact, you're gonna get in, get out, right? Get in, get out. That's it. You can't get in and stay in. That's West Coast, right? Like if you do that on the East Coast, you're gonna hear, fuck you looking in my face for? Like, that was the cultural thing when I first got out here. Like people will walk by and just stare in your grill. And by me growing up on it, being on the East Coast for 30 some years before I came out here, like that's like socially like not good. Right?
I think we're also in a time of life people don't know how to have normal human interactions in person.
Right.
Do you know, like,
yeah, of course.
because everything is so social.
Keyboard.
I think
umbrella.
people don't know how to have interactions. They're kind of stuck in. Even with this is one thing I don't. It's not. I don't want to make it seem bad on people, but like it's Men's Mental Health Month, right? And I see a lot of people sharing stuff. Men's Mental Health Month. It's okay to cry. It's okay to do this and that. But I also feel a part of it is that's all people do is share stuff. They just share that piece of content saying
But
that.
don't live it.
And I'm like, sharing is great for awareness, but I think we need action. So like when the listeners are listening to this, you're supporting Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I want you to go through your contact list and think of 1 or 2 men you haven't spoken to and check on them. Because I think sometimes we get confused that sharing on social media is same as showing up.
Right. Well, you're right about that, man, because I think it was almost physiologically impossible for me to cry up until I was in my 30s, right? Like I sat at my father's funeral and I was heartbroken that he was gone. Cause he had called me like twice that week and said something to me I keep to myself, but he said something to me that I had waited my whole life to hear come out his mouth. And I'm like, why you talking to me like this? And he was like, I just need you to know. And then 2 days later, he was gone, right? So I'm sitting there, 30 years old, my father's funeral, face dry as hell. And I wanted to let it go because I was hurt, right? But I just couldn't. And then slowly but surely, I got to a point where I stopped. I guess as a man, I stopped lying to myself. You know what I mean? Because like I told you before, like I'm invincible. I can't die, blah, blah, blah. And then one day I realized, man, your ass is going to die. Like everybody else, right? You just a man. You not this dude that you think you are, who you was trying to be. And I pushed it, right? It was a couple times I could have got taken off here for some of the stuff that I did, right? But didn't. And that just made it worse. And so I realized, like, when I got in touch with my feelings, like how I really feel about stuff, that was when I became strong, right? So, like, right now, in full disclosure, if I'm in my car, I tell you a song that'll get me every time, man. It's like sometimes I put it on to see if it won't make me cry. I'm not lying. The Way of the World by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It'll get me every time, right? And I'm gonna tell you why, because when I was a kid, so I had an uncle, right, who would roll up on you and just start rapping about everything. He could go forever, right? And I followed him around my whole life. He was one of them brothers, man, that read poetry and stuff. And the thing about him was he always had time for kids. Like, most of my uncles had time for us, but he was different, right? Because he would play with you, like. So he would pull out books of poetry and just read to me and be like, what do you think about that? Like, this what they telling you. And one day, man, we was laying on his bed looking up at the ceiling, and he had probably like smoked a couple joints and it came in the house. And I'm sitting there, we laying in his bed looking at the ceiling, listening to The Way of the World. And he was explaining the lyrics to me, right? He was like, a child is born with a heart of gold. He said, that's you. And he said, the way of the world turn your heart cold. He said, that's me. He said, once you come through the world, right, you're going to have a less rosier picture of it, right? So, look, it's ready to get me now. So when I listened to it, it get me, right? Because that was like a serious moment between me and him. But what I found is the most powerful thing that I can do is cry. It's almost euphoric to me. Because, man, like Jay-Z said in that one song, Lost Ones, don't run from the pain. You got to run towards it. And once I started doing that, I became bulletproof, right? Because, like, the things that happen to you make you who you are, right? But what you do with that data is up to you. You can use it to reinforce the mask you wearing, or you could use it to reinforce who you really are on the inside. And being emotionally available and connected to my feelings is what makes me a great coach, right? Because like that empathy, right? You've been through stuff. So when people come to you, you can relate to going through struggles, right? Like what could somebody talk to you about that you can't relate through with all that stuff you've been through, right? Like, you know, when I saw the thing and you fell out that window and you put that out there like that, it blew my mind. I literally sat there thinking for like 15, 20 minutes about times I could have fell out. I almost fell out a window. You know what I'm saying? And would I be here now had things gone a little bit more south that way? And then I started thinking about, what am I doing to make, okay, so this guy putting his shit out there, what am I doing to make it so it don't happen to somebody else? That was what your stuff did for me, because I was like, he putting it out there 100% like, yo, I really did this, right? So it's like, what am I doing? And so, you know, I think what I'm doing is, I got probably like 160 or 180 reviews on Google, and if you go look through them, there's people on there that credited me with saving their life, like literally, you know what I mean? And so being in touch with my feelings and learning what's really important made me a better trainer and coach, right? Because I got clients who, you got to think, they don't believe, like sometimes they come to you and they done tried so much stuff and failed that they almost like, whatever. You know what I mean? But if you can get them to believe that they can do it, and it's like they look at me and they like, oh, well, you never really had to work hard for it. Really? Mm-hmm. Really? And then I tell them the story, how I was the skinniest dude in the world, how they said I was too small, too slow, and weak. And they was right. At the time, that was true. But I decided that I wasn't going to accept the reality that they gave me. They was like, here you go, little, small, slow guy. You just stay over here in your lane and you're going to be okay. And I was like, fuck that. No way. And I just started working and working and working and working. And it was like, the harder I worked, the more they laughed. The more they laughed, the harder I worked, until wasn't nobody laughing but me. And I share that story. You know, I got a little 127-pound client. We just put 8 pounds on him, right? So, you know, that's huge. When you 127 and you move to 135, telling him my story made him believe, look, man, if you trust the process, you can get where you need to go, right? And so here's this guy, 24 years old, and I'm helping him develop the person he was trying to be, right? I was in college working out. A dude took me under my wing because I was trying to create this guy, and that's what he's doing. And so being able to tell my story to people like you do, right? Like some of the stuff you share, it's a lot of people out there been through that would not say that in public, right? That would not say, you know, I was inebriated to the point where I fell out a window, or, you know, some of the stuff I was doing. And I'll be honest, I think if I look back on it, you know, I don't think I've ever really had drug or alcohol problems, but then that's the lie you was telling yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really had problems. But I know if I would have stayed in that life, I wouldn't have been able to say that. You know what I'm
were
saying?
your drug of choice? Or what'd you do? What were you doing?
I don't think it was really like choice, but I've tried quite a bit. I ain't do no crack or no heroin.
Why not? I'm just kidding. I ain't never done crack or heroin either,
No,
but I did have
why?
a guest
You know
who
why?
did crack, and I was shocked. I never
I'm gonna
met
tell
nobody.
you right now, because that shit is a lifestyle, right? That shit is a lifestyle. Yeah, I tried some Yago and some ecstasy and some mushrooms.
What was your favorite?
Oh, no question.
Ecstasy.
100%.
Just pop that thing, get loose.
Yes, sir. Turn up.
How old are you when you first tried drugs?
The same uncle I'm talking about smoked a joint with me when I was like 6, and then told my mother.
He had you smoke it with him. Like you hit it at 6, you hit the joint?
And then told my moms. My moms was like, did you smoke a joint with Uncle Kevin? And I was like, yes. Right? It was funny as hell. But not during high school, right? I was like, I was an athlete in high school, and I was the dude that, like, I was the only dude in the hood that the joint would go over top. Dudes ain't even try to peer pressure me, right? Like, my hood was just so happy that I was, like, doing something that they, like, supported the fact that I'm like, no, I'm not, you know what I mean? They was like, they would roll up and would, like, move away from me. Like, it was probably, I think I started smoking weed when I was, like, 21. I was in college, and it kind of started off like that. And then, you know, when I got out there, you know, I tried some things in my lifetime.
Coke?
Definitely.
That's that shit, ain't it?
Nah, man.
What you mean? No, don't lie.
Look, check this
I'm
out.
sober now, but I know when that period of my life, I was like, whoa. I see why the movies.
I'm so glad I danced with that devil.
Make it that way.
Live to tell about it.
Same.
That shit can do your ass in.
Yeah, when I remember the first time I did it, just did a couple lines with some friends, and like I was like, I ain't a fan of it. Few months later or so, one of my friends became a dealer. We started just doing it on random weekends, and I got coked out, like a couple lines, like 8-ball between a couple, and I was like, oh, this is what, okay, I see why the movies, and around the time I was doing it, this is when Wolf of Wall Street came out.
And you know, so they made it look sexy.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street and Pain and Gain, the movie with Mark Wahlberg and The Rock. Oh, boy, and I remember they were just turned up, I need a bump. And I remember me and my boy used to just do it while watching it, and it was a time, you know what I mean? I'm glad I'm not there no more, but I get it. Don't do it. Stay away.
For me,
some might say.
I don't know, man. It was just kind of weird because it was like, it was big in Baltimore, and it was not my thing. And then all of a sudden one night I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
By yourself?
Nah.
Oh, your homies and shit?
Just
everybody?
out, hanging out.
And they were like, we doing it.
I used to go, so I was probably like one of the 2 or 3 most visible people in the state, right? And so I remember we was having these parties in Baltimore, and this cat was like a real estate, one of the biggest real estate dudes, and he lived on the top of this building, and he'd have these parties, man, and it would be like everybody, models all over the place. You know, who you? I'm a Jean-Paul Gaultier model. I'm like, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that for sure. Like having these parties, man, I was like out there. And so when in Rome, eventually your ass gonna do like the Romans do. And then in Baltimore, right, it's like you can go in the girls, well, if the girls take you in there, you can go in the girls' bathroom. So they're like, oh, Rob, you coming with us? We going in the bathroom. So
you know what's going down.
It was just, it was just all part of, man, I was out there just enjoying myself, doing my thing, and then I tried it, but it definitely, I'm lying, but it definitely, it had its place for a little while, man. You know what I'm saying? It had its place for a little while. And the thing is, I don't think I really realized how off the deep end I was until I got there. And then I was like, it ain't as much fun no more. You know what I mean? And that's when I decided it was time to get the hell up out of Baltimore and go to Vegas, because I wasn't really doing that shit because it was my goal. It was just all part and parcel to the scene I was on. And then by me really being like, nothing can stop me type thing, it was like that. And then one day, man, it was kind of funny when I decided to come to Vegas. One day, so I had a life like dudes would have killed for, right? Because like, okay, I was even before 9/11, so you know I was making like $4,000 or $5,000 a week as a engineer. And so on the weekends, it was like I got 3 days to just
coke it up.
Just no, it wasn't even there yet.
Okay,
right?
It wasn't even making that kind of money. Shit,
but it was like, man, we was just having so much fun. The parties was so wild, man, that I let it happen. And then, like you said, it was like I was doing it till I realized, oh, okay, I'm really doing it now. You know, it just.
Oh yeah, and you know what's crazy? I noticed the period of life when I was doing it, it was like a 6-7 month period when I was on it tough. It's crazy. You really don't know. You don't know who does it until you pull it out of a party.
Yep.
You pull it out of a party,
and find out.
And you find out. You're like, wait, you? Like,
no,
yeah.
Everybody. Right? Everybody. No. Now, the one thing I could say is if you can handle it, you good. I wasn't a bag chaser. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Once I got to a certain point, man, I put the brakes on. Like, once you in and out the bag like that, sitting at the table till 5 o'clock in the morning, you know what I'm saying? Like
I done some things, boy.
No, I got to keep it at a limit.
Let me ask you something. I'll circle back to something you spoke on earlier. You mentioned up until 30, you weren't able to cry based off, I'm assuming how you're brought up. What was it you think in your childhood that brought you up that made you so hard?
I think it's partly because I'm from the era where you were socialized on a football field. You know what I'm saying? Like things are a little different now, right? Like sexuality, gender, all of these things now have a lot more gray area and nuance than they did when I was coming along. If you had a gay thought when I was coming along, that was it, right? Like it just was no tolerance, nothing like that. So you just kind of learn like you're supposed to be tough. I don't really think it was tough. I think it was the fact that in order for me to move forward, man, I had to push my feelings aside because my parents were 17 and 15, right? So my resources was limited. And essentially the opportunities I got, I had to create. So it wasn't no time for feelings, right? You couldn't be tired, you couldn't be cold, you couldn't be sleepy. You had to get that ass up and take advantage of the opportunity. You had to be at this spot right here at this particular time just to get an opportunity. Now I don't have that problem, right? Because I'm in more control of it. But in order to get on, you got to go when the opportunity, opens up. So I think part of that was because I just became mechanical, in order to move forward. And I guess, I just kind of block things out, like most guys do, like most men do, right? And it just wasn't something that I did. And then, just a part of life, man, growing. And then obviously what we talked about was partying and, that's the thing about getting high, right? It's fun on the way up, but then on the way down, you start seeing things, you know what I mean? You start thinking and learning things about yourself. And I think and that was when I realized, like when I allowed that to come into my life, it made me realize I really wasn't bulletproof, right? Like some of those, nights, drinking and partying, like the realization, that, I'm just a regular person. And I think when that happened, I became a bit more real. And then my feelings just came out. Like, it wasn't like I invited them out. They just came out. They was like, hey, these are how you really feel about shit. And we like to introduce ourselves to you. So let's sit down and talk. And I found myself just crying. Like, my woman I'm with right now, I think, man, we might have been on like our 4th date. It wasn't like
Go ahead. You start crying in front of her? It just broke down?
Just started crying.
She play Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Nope. Nope.
What was the situation? Tell me.
Her and I was just having a real serious, heartfelt talk. And I was talking to her about the time when I had a incident with a homeless person, right? And that shit changed me, right? Like, I got to this point, man, where I got in touch with my feelings and the universe just started speaking to me about what was really important. So we was playing at this spot I think it was called a Funk Box, but it was really originally called an 8x10. And there is an Italian place around the corner, a little carry-out spot. Every place you play, there's always a place you like to go and get, like, your favorite thing, right? Like, it's one spot to get the best crab cakes in Baltimore, and every time I would play there, I would go there. So anyway, I saw this guy laying on a stoop, right? And he was sleeping, older dude, little teeny small black guy. And so I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna get that dude a meal too. So I went and I bought, I think I just like got pizza. Cause like I sat there and I ate it with him. You know what I mean? I ain't just go, here, homeless dude, here's a meal. Fuck you. You know, it wasn't like that, right? I tapped on him and he was like, oh, am I on your steps? I was like, nah, man. I was like, look, they gave me too much food at the place, right? They gave me some extra food. I was like, oh, I bought you a meal. You hungry, right? I was like, I just got a little extra food. I was wondering if you would take it off my hands. I got an extra drink too. And he was like, oh, sure. So we sat up on the stoop and I sat down.
The accent, go ahead.
You know what I'm saying? And I sat down, right? And I started eating with him and just talking, right? And he said something to me, Dorian, I will never forget this shit as long as I live. I have not been the same person since this dude said this. When I put the pizza in his hand and it touched his hand, you know what the hell he said? He said, damn, it's so warm. And I thought to myself, yo, man, it ain't funny because it's like this dude is eating a warm meal. You know what I'm saying?
It's not funny, but
it ain't funny. It's like
Sorry.
It killed me. And it was like when I gave it to him, he literally went off. He was like, damn, it's so hot. Like, this a dude eating out the garbage can, man. You know what I'm saying? And this guy is happy to get a slice of pizza that hadn't been sitting in a dumpster for 2 days, right? And when he said that to me, it just blew my mind. It's like, here you walk around, man, and this guy is happy to have a fresh slice of pizza, right? If that don't get to you, and I was telling my girl about that shit and got all choky. It wasn't like I did it on purpose, right? It just happened, right? Because that shit touched me, and I was becoming, like, feelings that I had pushed away, right, was hitting me. I think that's why we together, for real, because it was clearly I wasn't no punk, because she had seen me get into some shit. So it was clear I wasn't no punk. What that signal to her was, this dude got a heart, right? Like, at first I was like, damn, this my last date with her. But nah, we've been together ever since, because I think she realized that, I think it was something sexy about it to her. You know what I mean? Like, what I was actually teared up about was somebody was like happy to just, like, to me, it just says you walk around and you don't even really notice little things that really, really matter, right? It's the shit in your garbage would change somebody else's life. You know what I mean? So I thought that was a valuable message. And it just started happening. It wasn't like I wanted it to happen. It just started. And then it took me a while to realize it was a blessing. Because all this stuff was in me, man. And it was like, once I got it out, I felt like I lost 50 pounds. And then I began to see things differently, right? This isn't my saying that you said to have, but this is one that's huge. And it's like my mentor taught me this, Ruben Brooks, and he said, when you look at things differently, the things you look at change, right? And that was me learning how to look at things differently, and it changed me. Because I started to see the value in things that happen in life. And that's why the couple things I would come into you and be like, yo, man, that shit blew my mind, right? The same way what that guy told me that day, when I saw your post about waking up on the street, it did the same thing to me, right? It was value in that. Like, I think, we all 2 weeks away from the street. If you look at it, I mean, when you look at it, it could take a couple things go wrong and you could be done, finished, right? Like, you think your position in this world is just solid, right? You got a nice house, you got a nice car, but you lose your job 6 months later, then where you at, right? Like, in anything you have can be taken away from you. And the question is, would you still be happy then, right? Would you still be Dorian if you ain't have your whip, if you ain't have your gear, if, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm at now, right? Like, if you take everything away from me, I'm gonna still be this dude right here. And it took me a while to grow to that point, because a lot of times your happiness is based on circumstance. Things going good, right? Things going the way you want, then you cool, right? But what happens when things don't go the way you want? Do you get away from, your core principles and beliefs? I don't do that anymore, right? And it took growth to get there. So the part where, like, the crying, and that just came. You know what I mean? Like, it just came. And then I just started being real with it. Like, when something hurt me, I just let it go. But I don't cry as much as I used to.
You just said every time you in the car.
No,
I see you in the car every day at work.
No.
So now I know you in there, Earth, Wind & Fire, breaking down. I'm going to leave you alone.
Nah, man.
I'm gonna pull it up next time.
Not
No, I'm just
every
kidding.
day.
That's mean.
It's been a little bit. Oh no, I'm lying.
On the way here.
Because my uncle was put in a hospice. Over the weekend, and and him and I had like a contentious relationship.
Is the same uncle with the weed?
No.
Oh.
No, he's already passed away, believe it or not. But he and I had a contentious relationship, and I was talking to my lady about it, and it got to me, because it's like an important person in my life that's getting ready to check out. And he ain't the first one, It's like we getting a little long in the tooth. I'm 53, so, my uncles and aunts are in their 70s. My mother's almost 70. So it's, at a time in my life, man, where things changing, and I'm still changing, and I'm proud of that, right? Because, a lot of people stuck in their ways, but I'm still growing and still learning. And sometimes it's funny, right? Because my clients credit me for teaching them things, but I learn a lot from them too. The things that they go through and the things that they overcome. And overall, I can honestly say life is good. I'm happy about who I am as a person and where I'm headed. My relationship is solid, and my home is sanctuary. And so for a dude that came out here with $100 in a bag of clothes, I'm all right with that.
What are some things you do now to make sure your mental state is right? Or that, and then also when your mental state isn't right, like you're not feeling the best, what kind of things do you do to get you back?
Smoke weed.
Why?
No, I'm just joking. I thought you was gonna laugh at that.
Nah, I was gonna go deep. Like what you escaping from?
Yeah.
You said talk about all his feelings, so weed ain't the way to do it.
See, here's my thing, right? I spend a lot of time doing
the same way you didn't think the fucking pizza thing was funny.
No, that shit ain't funny, man.
Hey,
if you would have heard dudes
let us know, audience, if you thought. I just thought you were gonna say. I don't want to make come off back because I've been homeless before, but it was just when you set it up, man. He said something to me, and I didn't expect it to be this pizza so warm. Like I thought it was gonna be some.
Nah,
this could be used one day.
Yo, it was when he said that shit, man. It hit me like a ton of bricks, cause like, damn, you just happy to get a hot meal.
Go ahead back to what helps you with your mental.
So, I have a very strong mental program that I follow, right? Like, I try to control my environment with my thoughts. I believe that bad thoughts cannot produce good outcomes. Man, I think I've said this to you before, and good thoughts cannot produce bad outcomes, right? So mentally, I protect my mental by, it's kind of hard to explain, but I try not to let negative thoughts, I'm not negative anyway, right? I'm just a naturally positive person, right? Most people will tell you that. And that protects me from a lot of stuff. Secondly, I stay focused and vibrationally aligned with my goals, right? That was something a client of mine taught me, a very, very valuable, unbelievable friend. And she passed me a couple of books on like manifestation and things like that. So when I get off, I bring it back together by sitting down and just focusing my mind, right? And it sounds corny, but it works, like when you get there. Secondly, and then of course, I believe in cannabis, you know what I mean? Like, it calms me down, you know what I mean? We usually have a little nightcap before we call it a night, or some type of gummy that's gonna make us go to sleep. And me and my lady about the sleepingest people you ever seen, right? Like, a lot of people just don't get enough sleep. You know what I'm saying? You getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep and you wondering why you all wacky. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's huge, right? To get 7 to 9 hours of sleep on a daily basis. Now, I might not get 8 every night, but at least 7, 7.5. And then, some nights it's 8, but on the weekends, man, I relax. I mean, like, I'm big into relaxing. Like, I try to get my work done, and then I just take time to decompress, and it's part of what I do. It's part of what I am. So, like, right now, so let me see. My lady gonna get off in about 45 minutes, and then she'll come home, and then we'll eat, and we'll go sit outside, and, maybe we have a drink. We don't always, but I don't drink a whole lot, but once in a while, We just sit out there and talk. And sometimes we sit out there and let the breeze blow and we don't talk, right? And we just relax and we decompress. I'm not one of those people that's going to work a 10-hour day, then go home and get on the roof and start replacing shingles. You know what I'm saying? That ain't my style, right? Like, I take time to go home and relax. And then, so I think when you put, your positive way you look at things, manifestations to keep you balanced, cannabis, and taking time to relax, I really don't find myself too stressed out at all. And when I get stressed out, I check myself. I sit down, I try to figure out why I'm stressed out, and then I attack those problems. But it all starts from mentally. I don't allow myself to respond emotionally to everything that happens to me, right? I listen to this guy, you can get him on YouTube, called Napoleon Hill. And one of his best, you got guys listening to Tony Robbins and all those guys. I like Napoleon Hill's, way old school. I think it's probably from like the 60s or 70s, right? And what he talks about is being detached to the point where, let's say someone comes up and insults you. Take a pause and ask yourself the question, is this going to matter tomorrow? Am I going to care about this next week? No, roll out. Don't even waste time giving those people your power, right? And, I was having some drama around the gym. You know that.
Yes, I was curious because you're saying how you stay stress-free, don't act emotionally, but I've seen firsthand.
But I'm human, though.
I'm not saying you're not.
You know what I'm saying? I'm human.
I'm not. I'm just curious.
And a couple times.
When those happen, what goes through your mind during and then after?
So the few little instances I had around there was based on repeated BS. It wasn't, so it wasn't like I'm a hypocrite and saying, oh, I'm this evolved person and the first time something happened, I'm flipping out. That was in response to 20 things happening, right? And we all know, how things go on, not just in our gym, which is a great place. I wouldn't want anybody to think that it was anything different. Any gym that you in, you got a lot of personalities.
Any work.
Right.
Any job.
Right. But a gym is different, right? Because you're going to have a different way of operating in a corporate setting than you would in a gym, right? It's more relaxed. The rules are a little bit less, and it's physical stuff going in, you know what I mean? A lot of energy and stuff going, so it could tend to boil over.
I think that's the problem.
Right. And it can
because there needs to be, even though it is everybody's their own boss and everything like that, there still has to be a sense of leadership and somebody with some type of control. Like, you got your freedom, but we have these standards and regulations how we move in this facility. And I feel like sometimes not all places have that. Because you go to, what else are like that? Like beauty salons and, things like that with contractors. I'm sure the owner, whoever, in successful businesses, they have a standard of this is how we operate here. Run your business how you want, whatever. But this is a standard we have, and we're going to have, not necessarily consequences, but there's going to be, I guess consequences is the word to use, for people with actions that screw up that kind of flow.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but see, the
like
reason,
sometimes we don't have
reason why you have less leadership in some gyms is because the owner is not going to pay somebody $40,000 to sit there and or $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to sit there and manage it. So, like what we did in my gym, me and my boy Big Dave, what we did was we was like, you pay us rent, and as long as you ain't damaging stuff, you good, right? You want to tell people this your gym, if that's what it takes for you to get clients and pay rent, we was fine with that, right? Like you kind of let the inmates run the asylum a little bit because it's almost like a necessary thing, right? Or else you got to pay somebody to stay there all day long. So what it comes down to is the level of professionalism in the people there. Now, me personally, my professionalism is not a question, right? I clean up my mess. I defer to other people. I share the space and all that. But the problem was I was running into some things and it would frustrate you, right? And so being a human being, I allowed myself to respond. But here's the problem that I had. The mistake that I was making was I was right. There was no doubt about that in my mind. And the problem was the things that was being done to me was being done passive aggressively and quietly. And I was expressing my displeasure with these things that was being done to me. And I felt justified because I wasn't the aggressor, right? I wasn't starting these things. But from a distance, I appeared to be the aggressor. And that was where I started getting the negative consequences, right? And I'm thinking, damn, how in the hell am I the one? Okay, but then I realized, okay, here's the problem. This person is being quiet while they dogging you and antagonizing you. And I'm, you know me, I'm loud. You know what I mean? I'm animated when I'm in the gym. And, it really pisses me off how it's like, oh, Rob's loud. Well, I'm not loud in the library. I'm not loud in a hospital. I'm not loud in church. I ain't even loud at home. But in this gym, yeah, I'm going to raise hell.
I hate when people say shit like that because it's just them insecure with themselves and they don't
Right.
want to be
Right.
outspoken or anything. They want to stay quiet and conform to some
Yeah,
rules
it's
that
like
aren't
you
even fucking
quiet,
real.
So what? What does that mean?
I mean, shit.
Are you a good trainer?
So let me ask you this. With that situation, for example, that happened with you in your workplace and it got you riled up and out of character, what did you feel like you learned from that after it's all said and done?
I learned, okay, so I went home. No, you know what it was, man? I was dealing with that drama and it was going on, and it kept coming back and it kept coming back. And then it's funny how the universe just sort of opens up and talks to you, right? Because my client, same client I told you who has passed on books and ways of thought, she's a very spiritual person, right? Zodiac type stuff. She's turned me on to some amazing things. She turned me on to Napoleon Hill. Now, I had been listening to him like way in the background, like years ago. But she was like, hey, I'm going to send you a couple of these YouTube videos with this dude, Napoleon Hill. You ever heard of him? I said, yeah, it's been a while. And I get in my car, and this is while all this is going on, right? So this is funny how, like, the universe talk to you sometimes. And whenever she give me something, I'll listen to that because it's always valuable, right? And I played it, and he starts talking about, I think he was saying stuff like, you see the most effective people in the world, you don't see them flipping out because somebody says something to me. You giving people your power, right? You letting them rile you up. And I just started listening to it, and I thought to myself, Rob, how you in this position right here, man? Like, you on another level from some of this crap, right? So you know what I did? Every day when I came to the gym, I was playing. It takes me about 22 minutes to get there, right? Napoleon Hill. So when I walked in there, man, my mind was ready, and I started looking at, when you look at things differently, things change. And so I started realizing the mistake that I was making was I had allowed them to realize that I was excitable, right? You keep pushing on him. Yeah, he gonna stay away from it for a couple of weeks, but you'll get him out of his character, right? And I thought, why am I letting somebody do that? And for what? You know what I mean? I changed up my game, and so far it has paid off because I really like being, and it's not just there, it's everywhere, right? That was the only place I ever really had any issues with, was not just that gym. I mean, quiet as kept, I've had problems in almost every gym I've been in. Maybe you have too, because it's just...
Seems like a common denominator. I'm just kidding.
The common denominator is the situation.
Or how you decide to handle them.
Amen.
That word.
Too. See, that too, right? And so I started this off by saying...
Yeah, you just got to leave motherfuckers be where they at and try you. I mean, this time's myself included where I get riled up, but I like it because it tests me to see how much have I truly grown. Because the same individual you had issues with, I had to catch myself a few times to where my client was like, what are you doing? You too healed. You need to go turn up on him. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, hold on now. Full disclosure, I seen your ass get heated up too a couple times.
Oh, I always do. I know I do.
I mean,
I love those moments because, like I said, it's the real test. You think you're healed. You think you're this. Yep. You think you want to be sober. All this. Okay. You want to be sober?
Handle this shit.
I'm going to have your friend text you. It's their going away party. They need you to drink with them tonight. What are you really going to do? How bad do you really want to be sober? How bad do you really want to be fit? You don't, because your friend's going to tell you, let's go get some Big Macs. You're going to say, yeah. You know what I mean? So it's those moments, you're challenged. I love them because I don't show up how I want to sometimes. I'm like, all right, scale it back. Now I know a little Enrique, I'm leaving him alone.
Right.
Well, we're going to wrap up here. What's a quote you live by and why?
A quote that I live by, which I mean, I got a lot of them. I could sit here and just go all day, right? But
We got 2 minutes.
But the quote that I live by is by the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. And he said, "It is not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep coming forward." And that has just been the mantra of my life, because with two parents, 17 and 15, way before I could ever throw a punch, I had to learn how to stop taking punches, right? I had to learn how to take them and how to avoid as many of them as I can. And it got to the point, man, where I got knocked down so much I started liking the shit. And I realized that it don't matter how hard you hit, right? The world gonna keep coming. And if you can keep getting hit and keep coming forward, you're gonna be all right. And that's where I'm at. You can hit me as hard as you can. I'm gonna keep coming forward all night long.
Period.
And that's what I live by, and that's my quote.
I had his granddaughter on here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, not too long ago. Oh, shit, that was a minute ago now, but she was on here and spoke a little about their life. Well, Rob, I appreciate you, man, making the time in your schedule.
Thanks for having me, man.
Coming on here, sharing a little bit of your story, what you've been through, where you're at, how you're growing. And I'll tag his Instagram into the description of this podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Bamboo Season. Next week, I got Chef Jeff for my 50th episode coming up next week. Make sure you check out Rob's Instagram. You're in Vegas. You're not in Vegas. You want to get fit? Get my man Rob. He'll get you right. And I'm going to leave you with the word, your favorite part. The world is only going to get lighter. Or no, wait. The world is only going to get heavier. So learn to gain strength and to continue to lift it. Get out of your victim mindset. You ain't the only one getting hit. You ain't the only one going through the struggle. Pick your ass up and get to work. 2 words. Keep growing. Blah, 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 blah.